As I said, my name is Will Cooling. I'm the Head of Equality and Diversity here at the University of Wolverhampton. And this is the third of our monthly inclusive practice seminars. And this month we're looking at inclusive practice in terms of Ramadan, how we can support students who are fasting during Ramadan, particularly as this year it actually clashes with our assessments season. Obviously, this won't be a normal assessment season due to the coronavirus and the various measures taken to combat that, but it still poses a big challenge for students. And I'm delighted to be joined by one of the university's chaplains, Abdul Hamid, who is going to talk us through how to support our students. It's a pleasure to have you today, Abdul.
Thank you very much.
And feel free to start your presentation now.
Okay, thank you, Will. My name is Abdul Hamid, and I welcome you all in this presentation, and I hope we will go through some of the information which will be very helpful during the month of Ramadan. If you belong to academic staff, then you will be able to help the students. If you are a student, then of course that will be beneficial for yourself, how you can go through go through the month of Ramadan, as well as you can manage your exams. Ramadan, of course, appear every year, and exams appear every year as well. However, for the last 4 or 5 years, they are coming together, and of course, students are struggling to keep balance between both. So this presentation will be very helpful for those who are having exams as well as the Ramadan. The month of Ramadan in 2021, again for the subsequent years, exam in higher education will coincide with the fasting during the holy month of Ramadan for the Muslim community. And the Islamic calendar, that goes according to the lunar calendar, not the Gregorian calendar. So lunar calendar is 10 days shorter than the Gregorian calendar. So that means 10 days early every year, the Islamic calendar starts. And last Ramadan was in May, and this year, the Ramadan is starting almost 12th of April. Now, it turns, the last Ramadan in the summer, that was 33 years ago in May. So that takes about 33, 34 years to complete the cycle. So fasting during the exams will have an impact on Muslim students. What can students do to prepare for their exams while fasting? What can universities do to support fasting students during the month of Ramadan? Islamic perspective. Number one, what is Ramadan? Its importance, including the last 10 nights, which are very, very important. Ramadan timetable, how does it go from the morning all the way to the evening, night? Prayers, time off for the prayer, including the night prayer that's called Taraweeh. Then prayer timetable, then ablution and its importance, Eid celebrations, differences in interpretation in the Muslim community, impact on students, what students can do to look after themselves, university response, meeting the needs of the student's body. We'll look at these things. These are, I think, very important in this perspective. What is the Ramadan? That's one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Those who have general knowledge about Islam's they understand that there are 5 basic pillars in Islamic faith. And number 1 is the declaration of faith, oneness of God. Number 2 is the prayer. Number 3 is the fasting. So fasting is the 3rd pillar. And the 4 is the charity. And then the 5th one is the pilgrimage. The holiest month of Ramadan, it's basically increases the spirituality. And the commandment of the Ramadan is directly revealed in the Holy Book of Quran. God says in chapter 2, verse 183, O you who believe, fasting is prescribed on you, even as it was prescribed for the nations before you, so that you may gain piety. So that's the ultimate goal of the Ramadan and the fasting, is to gain piety, not to keep people hungry and thirsty and create trouble for them, keep them in the hardship. There are so many physical benefits and there are so many spiritual benefits, as God mentioned in this verse. Anyway, the purpose of the fasting is to gain piety. How is that? Of course, that can be totally separate chapter and a separate talk, which we can take some of the time. It's 9th month in the lunar calendar. Fasting for the whole month from dawn to dusk. Muslims, they fast during the month of Ramadan. The lunar calendar can be for 29 days or 30 days. So it depends. Sometimes, some year it's 29 days and some other years it's 30 days. Then from dawn to dusk, that means it's very, in the winter the days are shorter and the month of Ramadan is much easier for the Muslim community. However, in the summer the days are longer. As we have mentioned earlier, the cycle completes in about 33 years. So in the summer the days are longer and it makes about 19 plus hours. So only a few hours left when 4, 5 hours, 5.5 hours, when Muslims, they are not allowed to eat and drink. So what happens during the Ramadan and the fasting time? No food and no drink or any type of sexual relationship. So they cannot keep all the 3 things. Eat and drink during only in the nights, and also night prayer, that's called Tarawih, that happens in the night. Who can fast, who cannot fast? That's very, very important. Maybe some people think it's very hard and it's putting people in difficult situation from God. It's not the case. The verse 83, the next verse, I did not put that very long, so just the summary of that verse is, for example, the travelers, they can, if somebody is traveling longer distance from, say, from Wolverhampton to London, so again, in the Holy Book, God has given him opportunity and excused. The person is excused. She can make up that fast after the month of Ramadan. So he can leave that fast. Similarly, women, during their menses, they are not allowed to fast because of the mood changing, tiredness, some other situation, and also impurity. So they do not fast during those days, and they would have to make up those days after the month of Ramadan. Again, the children, number 3, the children, up to the age of, until they do not get to the age of puberty, they are not obliged to fast. However, they can fast if they want to, just for the sake of learning and establishing their stamina for the fasting purpose for the future. They can go on and off. They can keep some, they can leave some. So similarly, some children, when they go to school, some of them they keep fast. So some of them, they don't, of course. So for learning purpose, they can. However, after reaching to the age of puberty, it's obligation then. Likewise, the people who have permanent disease like, which is not curable, like diabetes. So diabetic people, they would have to have some time, depends what stage they are at. Sometimes they have to have the injection or tablet, or if they can keep, they can. If they can't keep, they know themselves. So they would have to decide themselves, or they can take that advice from their GP. They would go according to the GP's advice. So these are the people who are excluded from the fasting. Likewise, the very elderly people who are okay, they don't have any disease, but however, that long fasting, they cannot make it. That's too long for them. So if they cannot keep it, then they would have to pay penalty for that, and they would make someone else to keep fasting for them, for those people. However, women, and that means, and likewise, I missed another person, which is very important. Women who are pregnant, they would also go according to the doctor's advice, GP's advice, because the baby needs, of course, food from others. So that's very important. Similarly, mother who is feeding baby, so that's also excluded. So these people are excluded. So that means there is no pressure and there is no putting people into the difficult situation. But however, there are spiritual and physical benefits for the Muslim community. This is why this is a training, spiritual training, as well as the physical training for the Muslim community that God repeats every year. So night prayers, which is highly recommended, not compulsory though, but however highly recommended. Ramadan timetable, that's coming next. Here is Ramadan timetable. Like for example, people start here. There is, you can see my arrow, there is Maghrib. Maghrib is the prayer when Muslim community see the moon, and then of course it goes to according to the lunar calendar. So after seeing the moon, they are ready for the Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. So they are ready for the Ramadan, and then after Maghrib prayer, there are these five prayers, compulsory prayers. If a Muslim miss any of these prayers, then according to God, that person is sinful. And the first thing, because there are two main sources in Islam to take the commands. One is the Holy Quran, which is revealed upon Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Second is the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that's called Hadith. So Quran and Hadith, the Holy Book and Hadith, the sayings or the actions of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So the first question that will be about the prayer. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said in the grave. So as you know, we all have to die, and the Muslims believe after dying, the first question is about the prayer. So they are very mindful and responsible towards that prayer. So there, after this prayer, Maghrib, the Ramadan starts at the 1st of Ramadan, for example. That starts from here. And then this is the last prayer of that day, Isha prayer. This is called night prayer. And after this prayer, of course, soon after this prayer, Tarawih prayer starts. That's only in the month of Ramadan. So what Muslim community do, this prayer is normally performed in the mosques, and people finish the recitation of the whole Quran. The Quran is recited in the prayer, and the imam or the leader or the, you can translate as a priest, he recites the whole Quran in the prayer. So this is night prayer, and then by this prayer almost takes 1.5 to 2 hours almost. And Isha, this prayer that happens in summer around 10:30. So that means when you finish this prayer around 12:30, 1 o'clock, the already time is. Then this much time left for the rest, for the people to sleep. So then they get up somewhere here, and they have to finish eating by 3:30, around 3:39, because this is the time to eat. So they can sleep this much, just maybe an hour or so in the night. Then they have to eat, and that time is just here. So they have to finish by 3:39. That changes every day, a minute or two, of course. So, and it gets further closer even. So they will finish eating here, and then next is the Fajr prayer. This is the first prayer of the day. So this is basically the dawn time when they finish eating, and this is Fajr prayer, the first prayer of the day, maybe 10-15 minutes or half an hour after the eating time finished. Then normally people take rest at this time. But those who go to the offices or those who attend the university, school, for example, then they can sleep up until, for example, this is 5 o'clock, so they can take rest another 2-3 hours here. But then they would have to rush after that, and they can go to the offices, school, jobs, whatever they do. So they will go to work from 8, 9, depending on their jobs or their situation. This is again midday. So again, students, they can wake up sometime here, and then depending on their, if they are studying, they will have to attend the university, then they will travel. If they are working from home, they can manage their own time, which is probably sometimes easy, but sometimes more difficult. So this is then the midday, and the second prayer that falls here. Excuse me. So if some students, if they are attending the practical exams at the university, this will appear, this prayer will fall during some time, maybe during the exams. And similarly, that's midday, so that will be maybe around 1:30, 2 o'clock. Then this will be about 4, 5 o'clock, around 5, 6. And then this will be around 8:45. So that means from here, when they eat, the people who are keeping fast, they eat from here. So they keep all day empty stomach, and they will open the fast here. They cannot eat anything, they cannot drink anything. They cannot have any sexual relationship. So this is another prayer here, that's called the tahajjud. Some people even try to perform this prayer as well. After Tarawih, they sleep or they don't sleep sometimes, they pray this prayer. This is another prayer, extra, but not obliged and not compulsory, but they sometimes do. This is start fasting, as I said. This is start suhoor, means people eat here. And this is the iftar, ending the fast. So this much time to eat and drink, this all time, they cannot eat and drink anything. It makes, 7 to 17, 18 hours plus, 17, 18 hours. So as I mentioned, this is the time for them to sleep and depending on the situation, if they work so, then it's not easy. Right, okay, so prayer, that's the second pillar of Islam. 5 prayers every day. If someone misses any prayer is a sinful and feels depressed if someone miss any of those prayers. This is why 5 prayers are compulsory upon every sane and male, female, every Muslim. It's very important. If they work themselves, they can, if they are traveling, they can combine the prayer. And now scholars have said that if they are doing exams, they can combine the prayers as well. But they cannot combine 5 prayers. They can combine Dhuhr and Asr, afternoon and late afternoon prayers together. And the evening and night prayer they can combine together if they are traveling or if they are working in such place where they cannot get the time off or they're doing any exams. So in this situation, they can combine the prayers. This facility is for them. Right, okay, so what should we do if students ask for the prayer during the exams? What we can do? Like for example, sometimes the exams is 3 hours long. Exams started at the time when prayer time did not, because again in the Holy Book God says, "Inna as-salata kanat ala al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta." That's Arabic text, which means the prayers are obliged upon the Muslims, upon the believers, in their own times. So there is a certain time for the prayer. If, for example, night prayer, I want to pray now, it's midday, or just late midday, I cannot pray that. If I pray, that's not acceptable. So prayer can only be accepted in its own time. I cannot pray before the time. If I get late, then of course I will make it up. But however, that will be separate penalty, making it late. That God knows best what that will be. So this is why prayer must be performed in its time. So if someone asks during the exams, then ideally we should have a separate space. For example, if a separate space, we can individually allow the students, because time span is maybe at least, even in winter, 1 to 1.5 hours. And each prayer takes, during the exams, people can shorten the prayer. That would take 6 to 7 minutes. If they already have made the ablution, 6 to 7 minutes if they have already made the ablution. And ablution is the condition for the prayer. Ablution includes, as I mentioned in the description as well at the beginning, ablution includes washing hands, washing the face, full face, washing arms including elbows, and making wet hands over the head and washing feet. However, listen carefully, this one, if someone had already made the ablution and put the socks on, then he can simply put the wet hands over the socks after that, only for the 24 hours cycle, for 24 hours. Again, I can say that if someone has made ablution at home, for example, and after making the ablution, he put the socks, or she put the socks on, then in the university, during the lecture or sometime, she can make, that's called masa. They can wash face, wash arms, put wet hands over the head, and put their wet hands over the feet. That will be sufficient. They don't need to wash the feet. But if they had not, they put the socks on without making the ablution, then they would have to take the socks off, and then they must make the ablution again. So this is why during the exam, if we don't allow a student to make the ablution, what will happen? Students will get stressed, and the student will keep thinking about that, and the student will not be able to pay full concentration, pay attention. So this is why it's very, very important. If allowing student for the ablution, then of course I think the ideally students, they should be, I would advise they can make ablution if they are taking the exams in practical in the university, in the examination hall. Then they should have the ablution before. If they can pray before, they should pray before. If the time has not started, then if they can pray after, they should pray after. But if time ends before the exams end, then they can request for the prayer, and they can make the prayer on the side. That can take only 5 to 7 minutes, not more than that. So that will be much, because that's a spiritual strength, and that's the whole purpose of the month of Ramadan. Now, prayer timetable, that's available in Wolverhampton. Normally students, they keep in their pockets, and those who perform the prayer, they know what the prayer time is starting and ending. Now, ablution and its importance, which I have already mentioned. Public washrooms, of course, people will use where ablution facilities are not provided. So of course, then people will use that, and there will be a bit more of hassle for the cleaning. But I think we need to bear in mind, we would have to accept that in that case. Normally, in general, during the semester, students, they go to the prayer rooms and they pray there. Of course, during the exams, we cannot allow students to go to the prayer room. We will allow them, if they have ablution, they can simply perform there. But if ablution is broken, ablution breaks, passing winds, using the toilet again, or sleeping, in these 3 cases, or a couple of other cases, so ablution breaks. If somehow ablution is broken, then in someone's supervision, or if it's very important, they can make ablution. Or if it's not important, simply students should be allowed to go to the toilet area, and they can make the ablution. Eid celebration, that comes end of Ramadan, and ideally, I don't think there are exams on the Eid day. But however, what will happen, because Eid sometime there is the differences between the Muslim community, a day before or a day after. That's due to the interpretation within the Muslim community. Some celebrate with Saudi Arabia, some follow the moon in England. So that doesn't really matter. That's just making some time easy for the people as well. So one day people miss, and they perform on the next day. Impact on students when they are fasting. Of course, you can imagine if somebody eats morning 3 o'clock and finishes 3:30, then he/she is not eating all the long day, and by the time, and it's hot as well, and 9-10 o'clock, you feel really hungry or thirsty. If temperature reaches sometime, I would say April, May, sometime it goes to 24, 25. You can just imagine in the countries like in the Middle East or Africa, or in South Asia, where temperatures go to 50 plus, but people still keep fast and people still work, and that's a lesson really. It's difficult to even imagine. People work and people keep fast or long day, and that have a different type of impacts on the body. Low blood sugar, and dehydration, headaches, sometimes stomachache, lack of concentration while studying or preparing the exams or during the exams. I remember a case, a student approached me a couple of days ago. he said, well, the problem with me is I write down, but I cannot make full focus, even if that was no exams as Ramadan. So he said, I could not fully focus, so I cannot complete all the, I take too long to think. So during the month of Ramadan, you can imagine when, of course, the energy level is low as well. And if exams is like, for example, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, that will be much harder. Thirst, heat, tiredness, and low cognitive responses, students react. Now, next thing is students react to fasting in different ways. For example, some of the students, they prefer to stay up early, and others prefer to just lie in. So it depends, because depends how the individual's habits are. Sometimes people sleep, they have deep sleep, so they don't sleep at all. Sometimes people sleep and they feel 20 minutes, half an hour, or 1 hour sleep will be sufficient. So it depends. Sometimes during the month of Ramadan, people don't sleep at all. But sometimes they sleep for a very short amount of time. Now here, what students can do. Eat and drink well beforehand, whole night. For example, students, they should drink, the liquid as much as they can slowly during the even night prayer, Tarawih prayer. People keep bottles with them, and they keep drinking after 10, 15 minutes, couple of sips, they keep drinking, so that they can, have more and more liquid consume more and more in the body. Eat and drink well beforehand. Eat healthy food. Like, for example, if you just eat Weetabix or very simple, like sometimes people just eat noodles, for example, so that will not be sufficient for whole day. So eat healthy food which could stay longer in the stomach, and then, of course, that will be much easier for yourself. If, for example, for some people, the tea helps them avoiding headaches or stuff like that, then they should manage on time so that they can have a day really well. Get plenty of rest. That's very, very important during the exams. If you don't rest, of course, you will be sleeping during the exams. If you're preparing, it's very important to mention here, if you're preparing your exams at home, and it's just the assessment or assignments, you're preparing yourself and you are submitting through e-vision, then again you have to maintain between the exams and the Ramadan. If you're performing all activities of the Ramadan, but missing some part of or most of the part of your exams and assignments, so you are getting late in submission, that will not be, as a result, will be good for you as well. So it's very important to keep a good balance between both, and make a schedule from what time to what time you will rest, and from this time to this time. For example, from morning, after the morning prayer up until 10 o'clock, I will sleep. From 10 till 1, I will prepare my exams. 1 o'clock, I will pray and take some rest. From 3 to 6 o'clock, I will prepare. So make timetable. Similarly, for the night prayer, if you cannot pray in the mosque, you can pray yourself individually. So it's not compulsory to perform. Of course, highly rewarded if you pray in the mosque and with the congregation. But if you pray with only yourself, that will also be sufficient, because your situation as a student is different, because you are preparing your exam, and the results of these exams, of course, that's the outcome of the whole year. That will have impact over the whole year and over the whole educational career. So this is why it's very, very important to keep a balance you may have studied really well through the year, but because of the month of Ramadan, if you cannot keep good balance, that would have a poor impact on your results. So this is why it's very, very important. So get plenty of rest, come prepared mentally and physically. That means the dietary things will be really well hydrated, relax, avoid stress, don't get stressful, and similarly come to the exams with ablution. That will really help you in two ways. Number one, of course, you are in ablution, and we believe as a Muslim that when you start something with ablution, God's help is with you, but that will be much more closer with you when you are in ablution, and you will be able to pray straight away when it's time for the prayer. And you will save your time, because in exams, your time is very precious. So if you take time to go to the toilet, make ablution again, that will, your time, of course, will be off from the exams. So avoid spending your time elsewhere. Come prepared with ablution. Now, how university can help, or how the staff members, they can help the students who are observing the Ramadan. Meeting the needs of the students' body, well-ventilated rooms, because it's in summer, if rooms are not ventilated, then of course students would feel very hot, and they will feel more tired, and they will feel themselves in trouble. So they would like to have the fresh air. They cannot concentrate otherwise. So ventilated rooms and halls, water available somehow, in case of feeling some student faint or get fainted, or simply wants to break his her fast, someone, because it's another question when a person can break the fast. Ideally, because you're keeping fast for God, and you should not break the fast, because let me tell you, mention the a quotation of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He said, if someone misses the fast of Ramadan, one day of Ramadan, or breaks the one fast of the day of Ramadan, if she keeps after that whole life the fasting every year, the reward cannot reach to that day the one was being missed. So this is why the day itself is very, very blessed and very, very important. So without any reason, Muslims, they cannot break the fast. But however, again, life is more important than any other worship. This is why if someone is fainting or get fainted or dying, so in that case, the recommendation and the advice, religious advice as well, is because in the Holy Book, God says, saving one person's life is as saving of the life of whole humanity. So this is why saving life is very, very important. So in case someone gets faint, then of course she can break the fast, or someone feel, I cannot take any more today, for example, if I keep it further, for example, headache too much, then that will result, or that could cause further damage to the body or brain or whatever, then that person can break the fast. But of course, that will be the individual's decision. Must have a quiet room where a person can recuperate if needed, and the person requests. Allow students to pray, please, as they need to or they want to. Give them 5-7 minutes, which not be a great deal. Of course, as a group, of course, it won't be possible. However, individually students, they can be allowed, and on the side they can pray. So prayer involves it's not prayer that they can sitting in the exams and they can pray. It's not like that, because Islamic prayer that involves the standing and then bowing down and then prostrating, making head and nose on the floor. So it involves quite a few actions. So they would have to stand from their place and then, of course, facing the direction of Saudi Arabia. That's called the Kaaba. Alternatively, what will happen as a result? Student sometimes they get frustrated. They may leave the exams as well. That happened as well in somewhere. So in that case, of course, then if university or the staff does allow, then of course if students go, they can have the opportunity of reset. Sensitivity to the needs of the students while fasting. So that's very, very important. Two extremely important points to take away here. Number one, any decision undertaken has to be the students, like, for example, keeping the fast, leaving the fast, breaking the fast, or if she has been not been allowed to pray, of course, then of course that would be student's decision if she leaves. So as a result, he should know the consequences as well. There's only so much you can do. We are dealing with adults who are capable of making their own decisions. So we can do certain things, but of course, if someone, because the cases have happened, people asked to break the fast, but person did not. Not in England, I have any case, but in other places, in other part of the world I know of, the people did not break the fast, so he died during the fasting. Even though that's blessed death as well, but again, the life is more important than the worship. Okay, so saving the life is very important. So if the person is taking the decision, she should have the understanding of the consequences as well. So as a staff member, we can only offer what we can. And that's all. If there are any questions, very welcome. I'm here to answer those questions. Even though, because the month of Ramadan is a bit far away, it was very important at this point to pass this information, to get ready for that blessed and holy month, for the staff members as well as for the students as well. So if you have any questions, you can ask now. My email address here. During the month of Ramadan, before, after, at any time, you are very welcome to ask any type of question, as a male or as a female, if you are facing any difficulties. So I'm very welcome to answer and give you a reply of those questions.
Well, a big thank you again, Abdul, for that very thorough presentation. I thought it was really interesting and some really good advice for people. As we said at the start, if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat for us. Into the Q&A function. The first question we do have is, when would you recommend the best time of the day for an exam to take place during Ramadan?
That's a very, very good question, and I have, I think, always thought about it. And I have always been very conscious to advise the university as well. According to my understanding, it's the early hours are better than the late hours. The reason why, because later hours, the response from the body gets further slower. So morning, early hours, like for example, 9 onwards, 12, that's the best time according to me. But however, some students may have this time for their own rest. So it depends, but ideally, my understanding is the early hours are better.
As we wait to see if we have any more questions, a question from me. I mean, obviously, we've been talking about students, and that's extremely important. Obviously, we will have Muslim staff members who, we as non-Muslims, talking about myself here, work alongside. During Ramadan, what can non-Muslim staff members do to support their Muslim colleagues?
Yeah.
Would you have any ideas of things that we can do? What's a good way to support Muslim colleagues as they're going through Ramadan?
Yeah. I think some of them I have already mentioned. Number one, of course, because people are fasting, if they request for the prayer, that will be very important to make some room for them to pray. Because it was been mentioned in the presentation as well, prayer 5 times a day is an obligation of every Muslim. So if one does not pray or perform the prayer, then in that case, person would get depressed and would keep thinking about it. And sometimes people throughout the life, there are people throughout the life, they have not missed the prayer at all. So they keep praying every day in their own times, 5 times a day. Then in that case, if they're not allowed to, then I believe the person will not be able to concentrate in his or her exams at all. So allowing a person for 5-7 minutes on a side, even you can see the person is praying, that's not a problem as a male, I'm sure. But as a female, of course, for them, ideally, best place for them is that they can pray only in women. So men must not be there. If you have any woman staff member, she can be around her if it's important. So that's very, very important, number one. Number two, keep the water in the hole somewhere. If someone gets really unwell, or requires water to break the fast, we can provide straight away, because sometimes the situation of the person who keeps fast is really, they are vulnerable very sometime. So water should be there that they can provide us straight away. If, for instance, Ramadan, the end of fasting time is appearing at the break, fasting break time, then ideally, if we can have some dates as well, because dates are the best thing to break the fast with. So if you have a box of dates, that will be really helpful for the students, that they can break the fast and continue their exams. They can eat, of course, the meal after. So these are the things. And also in case someone needs the ablution, so they might need to be given the permission to go to the toilets as well, as we allow sometimes other students to use the toilet.
Excellent, that's really helpful. We've got a question here from Julia, who asked, most of our assessments will be online this semester, so maybe time constrained over, say, 24 hours. So you have 24 hours to complete the assessment. How would you say we best support students taking assessments online during Ramadan, as opposed to the more usual campus-based exams?
Right, okay, just to get further more clear understanding of this question. So online assessment means they will be having exams online in certain time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so again, for that purpose, I think because in the exams, the time is quite specific. So this is why early time are better to get the better response from the body and from the brain. The later it goes, for example, if I'm fasting and I had my meal early morning, 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning, then if my exams is at 3 o'clock, then that means I'm very hungry at that point as well. And I'm very thirsty as well. I'm tired as well. My response from my brain and body is very slow as well. So I would suggest ideally before 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, that will be the ideal time to have the assessments and even practical exams.
Thank you for that, Abdul. Sarah just posted in the chat that a chaplaincy has a number of workshops coming up, particularly a panel of women of faith talking about the careers and an interfaith women's network, and to contact chaplaincy at wlv.ac.uk for more details. Also, the chaplain, there is Amina Khan is organising a chat and chai event on the 30th of March for Muslim women to get together, to connect, share ideas and experiences, and that's from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. And if you want to find out more, just contact Amina at amina.con@wlv.ac.uk. Does anybody have any final questions for Abdul? If not, I don't see any in the chat. If not, a big thank you again, Abdul. As I said, your email's on the screen.
Can I mention one more thing, for example?
You can indeed. Final word to you, Abdul.
Yeah, so just one more thing, final comment. Of course, the people, our staff members, those, of course, who are dealing with the students. So they really will understand between the difference between difference between two students who are open to eat and drink anytime, and the person who ate early in the morning and drank early in the morning and will eat again, 9, 9:30 at that time. So that means, of course, if the person asks for some permission, so maybe the reaction will be different. Sometimes what happens, people get angry as well when they're fasting because they are hungry, they are thirsty, even though one of the lessons of the fasting is to get to keep patience. That's very, very important, because we have not discussed the physical and the spiritual benefits of the fasting. We can discuss that at some other time. However, the requirements and the response could be different from the students, those who are fasting and those who are not fasting. So that's very important for the staff members who are dealing with the students who are fasting.
That's excellent. That's a really important point. And as I said, if anybody has any further questions, Abdul's email is there at a.hamid@wlv.ac.uk. Thank you again for everybody.
Phil, Will, can I just say, also to anybody who's attended today, we have recorded this session. It will be available, and we'll send out the link. So if you meet any other colleagues that you think, well, this would be so important in our school or in our department, then the recording will be made available to you as well.
Indeed so. And we have a full slate of events in March for International Women's Month. We also have, at the end of this month, 2 support forums for members of the Disabled Staff Network, focus on dyslexia and autism, which are more details are available. And if you drop either me or Megan an email, and we are also running events for LGBT plus History Month. So lots more of equality and diversity events at the University of Wolverhampton. But thank you again, Abdul. This has been a great talk, and we'll see everybody soon.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.